From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day, this is Dateline Malacañang and here are the news. For our top story, the Philippine Department of Migrant Workers or DMW confirmed on Thursday that 2 Filipino seafarers on board a merchant ship traveling along the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden were killed in the recent missile attack by rebel group Houthi. The DMW also said 2 other Filipino crewmen were severely injured in the attack on the ship. According to reports, the attack, which the Houthis claimed responsibility for, killed 3 seafarers on board the Greek-owned Barbados flagship True Confidence on Wednesday. The Greek operators of the True Confidence said the vessel was drifting and on fire. They said there were 20 crew and 3 armed guards on board, including 15 Filipinos, 4 Vietnamese, 2 Sri Lankans, an Indian, and a Nepali national. The DMW is in touch with the ship's manning agency and ship owner to ascertain the conditions of the rest of the ship's crew, particularly the remaining Filipino crew members, as they have been informed that the crew members were taken to a safe port. The department has also coordinated with the principal ship owner and manning agency to work on the repatriation of the remaining Filipino crew members. The DMW then reiterated its call to ship owners with ships navigating the volatile Red Sea, Gulf of Aden sea lanes to comply strictly with the expanded high-risk areas designation and to implement appropriate risk mitigation measures such as rerouting vessels and deploying armed security personnel aboard such vessels. The DMW also called for continued diplomatic efforts to de-escalate tensions and to address the causes of the current conflict in the Middle East.
Dateline Malacañang.
The news that former First Lady Imelda Romualdez Marcos has passed away is fake news. According to a source at Malacañang Palace, there is no truth to the news following the report that Mrs. Marcos had contracted a slight pneumonia, which was confirmed by Senator Amy Marcos. In relation to this, upon his arrival at the Villamor Air Base from Melbourne, Australia on Wednesday evening, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. went directly to the hospital where the former First Lady is staying. While in Melbourne, President Marcos said that he was able to talk with the former First Lady and that she was in good spirits. The President added that she has no difficulty in breathing and is continuing to recuperate. Doctors have given Mrs. Marcos antibiotics and have said that her fever will soon subside.
Dateline Malacañang.
Meanwhile, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Wednesday evening arrived at Villamor Air Base after his attendance at the Association of Southeast Asian Nations or ASEAN-Australia Special Summit. In his video message, the President said his visit was a significant step in realizing the opportunities and potential set forth under the framework of the strategic partnership between the Philippines and Australia. Following the visit of Australian Prime Minister Albanese to the Philippines in September last year, President Marcos said bilateral engagements in various areas of cooperation has increased, most prominent of which is the recent closer collaboration on defense and security. Let us now listen to the arrival statement of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, fellow workers in government, and the members of the press. I have just attended the ASEAN-Australia Special Summit to commemorate 50 years of ASEAN-Australia relations. We have met with ASEAN leaders and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. The summit provided an opportunity to discuss regional and international issues and how ASEAN and individual member states, such as the Philippines, may contribute to the peace, security, and prosperity of our immediate neighborhood, the Indo-Pacific. As a commemorative summit, it also provided a chance to take stock of how the ASEAN-Australia relationship has progressed in the last 50 years, how we may both together move forward as we advance common values such as peace, environmental stewardship, how mutual economic progress benefits both Australia and ASEAN. The sidelines of the summit also provided a venue to promote Philippine interess. I met with Australian business leaders and also launched the expansion of the Victoria International Container Terminal, a subsidiary of the International Container Terminal Services Incorporated here in the Philippines. I'm confident that linkages are created through this engagement led by our Department of Trade and Industry. We reinforced the growing interest of Australia to invest in the Philippines. This interest is confirmed in Australia's Southeast Asian Economic Strategy to 2040, where 4 key sectors were identified as investment priorities in the Philippines, to wit, agriculture and food, education and skills, resources, and green transition. We secured 12 business agreements in the total sum of $1.53 billion worth of investments covering diverse sectors such as renewable energy, clean technology, and recycling solutions, housing, IT BPM, infrastructure, medical devices, and digital health services. We received strong commitments from some Australian companies in support of our renewable energy and digitalization initiatives. Their strong interest is an indication that we are on the right track to position ourselves as a hub for smart and sustainably driven manufacturing and services. I have made it a priority of our government to advance Philippine national interest in engaging external partners. The summit provided an avenue to discuss our key positions, not only with our other leaders, but also with the Australian public. In addition to my address at the Parliament, the preceding week, on the sidelines of the summit, I had the honor of delivering a keynote speech at the Lowy Institute, where I delivered a foreign policy speech on the Philippines' perspective on peace and resilience amidst great power rivalries. I met with the Prime Ministers of New Zealand and Cambodia, and we exchanged views on matters affecting our respective countries in the region. I also met with our vibrant Filipino community here in Melbourne. I recognized their positive contributions to both Australia and the Philippines and called our kababayans to support our agenda for social and economic transformation through Bagong Pilipinas. This ASEAN-Australia Special Summit is the first leader-level engagement under the chairmanship of Lao PDR, and I'm confident that we have set the right tone for regional discussions for the year. My administration remains strongly committed to continuing constructive engagements with ASEAN and Australia to best serve our national interest, inasmuch as we tirelessly promote the region's peace, security, stability, and prosperity for the well-being of the Filipino people.
And you just heard Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Meanwhile, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Wednesday said that the entry of 2 Chinese research maritime vessels at the Philippine Rise, which is part of the country's exclusive economic zone or EEZ, is a clear intrusion into a Philippine maritime territory. The president said this is absolutely unnecessary, as if it is truly a research vessel, they could have just notified local authorities that they will do research in the area. President Marcos also said that the incident is a bit of an escalation of the tension that is already present in the West Philippine Sea. Meanwhile, the chief executive said that this is not the right time to invoke the country's Mutual Defense Treaty or MDT with the United States following China's Coast Guard violent actions that damaged Philippine vessels and injured Filipino Navy personnel on Tuesday.
I do not think that it is the time or the reason to invoke the Mutual Defense Treaty. However, we continue to view with great alarm this continuing dangerous maneuvers and dangerous actions that are being done against our seamen, our Coast Guard, and in this time they damaged the cargo ship and caused some injury to some of our seamen. And I think that we cannot view this in any way but in the most serious way. Once again, we will make our objections known and hope that we can continue to communicate to find a way so that such actions are no longer seen in the West Philippine Sea.
And you just heard Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
In other news stories, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Wednesday encouraged Australia to partner with the Philippines in promoting clean energy and the fight against climate change. The president made the statement during his intervention at the leaders' plenary session of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, Australia's special summit, where he also shared the steps the Philippines is taking to lessen the emission and investment in renewable energy. President Marcos described the brave steps the Philippine government is taking to fight climate change and bringing it to the international fora. Let us now listen to the speech of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. during his intervention at the leaders' plenary session of the ASEAN Australia Special Summit held in Melbourne, Australia.
Thank you to our gracious host, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, to our co-chair, the Prime Minister Sunexay Sipandan of Lao PDR, Your Majesty, Excellencies, good morning. Through these 50 years, Australia has proven time and again its support for ASEAN as it continues its positive role in ensuring peace and stability in our region and our immediate neighborhood, now referred to as the Indo-Pacific. We have seen how Australia has supported each of its neighbors through programs tailored to each country's needs for the overall goal of promoting the economic welfare of our neighborhood. I welcome Australia's strategic approach to deepening engagement through the 4 tracks for this special summit. On maritime cooperation, we thank Australia for its consistent support for the rule of law, for the 1982 UNCLOS and the 2016 arbitral award, not only through timely statements of support, but also through capacity building and academic initiatives to mainstream appreciation of international law. In ASEAN, Australia has consistently supported all ASEAN-led mechanisms through these 50 years. We appreciate the evolution of Australia's strategic approach towards the region from the mere confines of the Asia-Pacific to our now wider common interests in the Indo-Pacific. We thus encourage Australia to continue its active engagement, both bilaterally and through ASEAN, to ensure the primacy of peace and stability through confidence building, preventive diplomacy, and conflict resolution in the region. On climate change and clean energy, the Philippines remains at the forefront of the effects of climate change, constantly facing the harsh realities of devastating typhoons and rising sea levels, which continue to threaten our biodiversity and ecosystems, and in turn, agriculture, food security, and livelihood. These realities compel us to take bold and decisive actions, both domestically and in international fora, for climate justice. The Philippines welcomes the outcomes of COP28, and I wish to take this opportunity to reiterate our offer to host the board of the Loss and Damage Fund. Hosting the board in the Philippines will showcase global commitment to inclusivity, ensuring that the voices and experiences of the most affected countries are heard and considered in shaping the most urgent of global climate policies. We welcome Australia's aim to boost clean energy, financing, and investment in ASEAN, as well as its support for clean energy transition to meet climate action objectives. In the Philippines, we have taken concrete actions by implementing policies and initiatives to reduce emissions by catalyzing investments in our rich sources of renewable energy. We thus invite Australia to partner with the Philippines in our clean, green, and renewable energy industry and other emerging technologies, and introduce energy efficiency and conservation measures. On ASEAN Centers of Excellence, the Philippines urges Australia to continue its support for the ASEAN Center for Biodiversity beyond 2024. As we develop the ASEAN-Australia Plan of Action 2025 to 2029, let us take into account the pressing need for an effective and inclusive implementation of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework and establishment of its goals and targets on biodiversity conservation, climate action, ecosystems, and ecosystems restoration and its management. The ACB is also implementing the mainstreaming biodiversity into the One Health Capacity Development Project, a partnership amongst ASEAN Food and Agricultural Organization and the Australian government. On business, we are pleased to inform you, Excellencies, that the Philippines has just recently signed the second protocol to the ASEAN-Australia-New Zealand Free Trade Agreement. I am confident that through this development, the AMSTA will continue to respond to the evolving multidimensional challenges in the business environment and complement region-to-region efforts to strengthen supply chain resilience, the expansion of trade and investment, inclusivity, and sustainable development. The protocol will indeed benefit micro, small, and medium enterprises inasmuch as it facilitates their participation in international trade by improving their access to markets and participation in the global value chains, as well as promoting the use of e-commerce. With the momentum from the CEO Forum yesterday and the AMSTA together with the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, we are confident that we will usher in even more robust economic cooperation within our region and provide a legal framework for a more prosperous future. We certainly welcome Australia's Southeast Asia Economic Strategy to 2040, an elaborate plan that aims to broaden and deepen the economic ties between ASEAN and Australia. The economic cooperation infrastructures and web of free trade agreements that ASEAN and Australia have established over the years provide a solid foundation for this strategy to flourish and to create a shared future that is peaceful and is prosperous. The Philippines especially looks forward to expanding our collaboration on agriculture, on food security, digital economy, infrastructure, tourism, and healthcare, sectors that are key to achieving a strongly rooted, comfortable, and secure future for Filipinos and ASEAN citizens. On emerging leaders, we cannot discuss the future without highlighting the important role of our emerging leaders in shaping the world. We commend Australia for this truly forward-looking initiative of creating a forum for engagement of our emerging leaders in government, business, and in civil society. We hope this engagement will trigger a conversation on the issues facing our region and how they may be addressed through cooperation and partnership. Our emerging leaders are indeed the bedrock of the sustainability of our continued economic, social, and political progress. The above-mentioned thematic tracks will augur well towards the peace and prosperity of ASEAN and Australia, as well as the whole of the Indo-Pacific, and we look forward to supporting these initiatives as we usher in the next 50 years of vibrant relations.
And you just heard Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Meanwhile, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Wednesday shared with his fellow Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN leaders, that the Philippines has signed the second protocol ASEAN-Australia-New Zealand Free Trade Area. During the leaders' plenary session, which is part of the ASEAN-Australia Special Summit, the President said that this agreement will address the challenges businesses are currently facing in the region. The Chief Executive is confident that with the ASEAN-Australia-New Zealand Free Trade Area, this will further strengthen the supply chain, widening of trade and investment. President Marcos said that micro, small, medium enterprises, or MSMEs, will surely benefit from this agreement, for it will simplify their participation in the world trade by improving their access to the market, as well as the promotion of e-commerce use. Besides the agreement, the Philippine President said that there is also the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP agreement, that will further strengthen economic cooperation in the region.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Wednesday, together with his fellow leaders from the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, joined the leaders' luncheon hosted by Victoria Governor Margaret in Melbourne. Taking place at the Government House Victoria, leaders were ushered to sign the guest book upon their arrival. They also had an opportunity to interact with the koala, an iconic animal native in Australia. The leaders also posed for an informal family photo session. The ASEAN is the premier regional grouping in Southeast Asia that aims to promote political, economic, and social cooperation and regional stability. Formed in 1967 by Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand, the bloc was later joined by Brunei Darussalam, Vietnam, Lao People's Democratic Republic, Myanmar, and Cambodia, making up today's 10 member states. In 2022, ASEAN leaders announced their agreement in principle to admit Timor-Leste as ASEAN's 11th member. Timor-Leste is attending ASEAN events as an observer on its path to full membership. Australia recognizes that its prosperity, security, and economic future are intimately linked to Southeast Asia. As a regional bloc, ASEAN is Australia's second largest trading partner, reflecting around 15% of its total trade. In 2022, Australia's trade with ASEAN member states was recorded at 178 billion Australian dollars, and its two-way investment with the bloc was at 248.7 billion Australian dollars. With the Philippine economy growing at an average of 6% per year, said to be one of the fastest growing economies in Asia, Australia deems the Philippines an important trade and investment partner. In 2022, Australia's two-way trade with the Philippines was recorded at 8.2 billion Australian dollars, making the country its 17th largest trading partner.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, the Philippine Commission on Elections, or COMELEC, assured that they are ready if the plebiscite on the economic charter change will be done at the same time as the May 2025 elections. In an interview, COMELEC spokesperson John Rex Laudianco said that they can accommodate the plebiscite, especially since the COMELEC has implemented a new system for the elections. Laudianco said the commission can accommodate an additional question for the plebiscite. The COMELEC spokesperson added that they can use just one ballot but would be longer or two ballots which the machine can read. Besides this, the government will save 13 billion pesos if the plebiscite on the economic charter change would be done at the same time as the May 2025 elections. If they would need additional funding, the COMELEC said they will only need the honoraria given to teachers and poll workers that will serve and have additional work in the upcoming elections.
Dateline Malacañang.
Before we conclude our program, we would like to invite everyone to come and visit our Facebook page at Radyo Pilipinas World Service. You will be able to hear and view our Filipino and English programs, including news updates here in the Philippines. Kindly subscribe, like, and share our posts as well. And that concludes this edition of Dateline Malacañang. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this has been Steph Vicente. Good day and stay safe, everyone.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.